All right, and we are live.
Great. I just want to welcome everyone to the Senate Transportation Committee. Welcome. I am Senator Regina Birdsell from District 19. Today we will be holding a meeting of the Senate Transportation Committee. Before we get started, I'll read through a checklist to ensure that the meeting that we are holding is in compliance with the right to know law. As chair of the Senate Transportation Committee, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04 and its extensions, this body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. In accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that 1, we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possible by video and other electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the committee and selected legislative staff have the ability to communicate contemporaneously in this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously watch and or listen to the meeting on Zoom or YouTube and via phone by following the directions and links provided to the general court website. 2, we have provided public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting in the Senate calendar. We are providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anyone has a problem, please email remotesenate@leg.state.nh.us. I'll repeat that, remotesenate@leg.state.nh.us, or you can call 603-271-6931. And number 4, in the event the public is unable to access the meeting, it will be adjourned and rescheduled. 5, please note that all votes taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. And 6, finally, let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state where they are and if anyone else is in the room with you during this meeting, which is required by the right to know law. And I will call the roll. Senator Waters.
Senator Waters, at home in Dover, alone in his room.
Senator Ricciardi.
Good afternoon, Senator Ricciardi, in our home in Bedford, and I am alone.
Senator Ward.
I'm at my home and started alone in the room.
Senator Sherman.
I'm at my home in Rye. I have my son and his girlfriend here, and we're going to have workmen, and it's going to be a party.
And this is Senator Regina Birdsell. I'm at home in Hampstead, and my husband is in the house and will be coming through periodically. So thank you all for attending. What we're going to be doing, at least for the first half hour, between 1 and 1:30, I've invited some of the individuals that we see pretty significantly representing clients in transportation throughout the sessions. So I've invited them to come in and talk a little bit about what they do. And we will cut it off at 1:30. So I'm asking them to be somewhat short. And then at 1:30, we will be execing the 3 bills that we have. So Kirsten, who do we have?
Thank you, Senator. If our presenters could please raise their hands, and then I will call on them in order. All right, and we'll begin.
And now I can see them all. Wow. Okay. Jody, you have been given permission to talk.
Hey, can you all hear me okay?
Yeah. Can you talk a little louder? You're muffled.
Yes. My name is Jody Grumbalis. With my colleague Adam Schmidt, we represent different clients before the Senate and the House. In particular, before the Senate Transportation Committee, I hope you will think of us as the lobbyists for summer and winter fun. We represent the boating industry. We have the New Hampshire Marine Trades, all of our local businesses, marinas, boat dealers, boat suppliers, as well as the Water Sports Industry Association, manufacturers in the boating industry, in the boating world. And then in the winter, we represent the New Hampshire Snowmobile Association. So that is 110 volunteer clubs across the state that help groom the state's 7,000 miles of trails. Occasionally we may come to you, or we usually just watch some of the trucking issues, because we do represent the New Hampshire Beverage Association, which in New Hampshire is our Coke Northeast facility, headquartered in Bedford, but has a facility in Londonderry, as well as our Pepsi bottling company in Manchester, and there's another Varsity Beverage in Conway. So they just generally watch trucking issues, but that is how we participate a lot in Senate transportation. And again, summer and winter fun, think of us, and if you have any questions that we can help with, we're happy to do so. Thank you. Or if anybody wants to try something, let us know.
Thank you, Jody. Any questions? Senator Waters.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple. So do you see any emerging issues on water or on frozen water with your folks you represent, about any regulations or laws that we might need to adjust to reflect new equipment or new practices or any of those kinds of things?
Yeah, I think you'll start hearing, quite honestly, I think what was a surprise to most during the pandemic, I think the marinas were expecting a very hard summer because of the pandemic. The snowmobilers didn't know what to expect for the pandemic. And what we learned, everybody turned to those outside adventures. And so I think we saw new people come into boating. If you talk to any marina, they sold out of all their boats. If you talk to the snowmobiles were selling like hotcakes. So we have new users, which is a great thing for the state and for the industry, but I think it does lead to user confidence and a need for more education, because I think there are new folks who are enjoying our outdoors, enjoying our lakes, enjoying our trails, that may not know what the experienced users know. And that tends to cause problems. So I know from the boating industry, we're working on some educational campaigns to come out this summer on boating responsibly and water sports responsibly. And I know there's also discussion in the snowmobile arena as well about education and increasing that level. So again, we're thankful that people are turning to these sports, but we also need to make sure that we're educating them and making sure the law enforcement has the proper tools.
If I could follow up with one more.
Senator Waters.
Thank you. So for the bottlers, is there any talk in the industry now about what they're looking towards in terms of electrification of their fleet and, you know, anything that we ought to be aware of in terms of providing charging stations in the state or otherwise?
I know Coke Northeast has had some of their fleet be electric vehicles. I'd actually want to go back to them and get more information about that, and I can put that in a response to the committee by email.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Jody. Senator Sherman.
Hi, Jody. I just have a quick question. With, you know, we've seen, as you noted, a huge expansion in boat sales, but also large boat sales. They're selling, you know, the over 20 footers, the overnight boats, cabin cruisers, sailboats. Is there pressure to increase marina size and adequacy of anchorages to meet this larger volume, or is that not an issue?
I haven't heard that, but I will see the marinas have a big education day on Thursday. So that's probably more so for the Seacoast marinas. I might need to ask them if they're seeing that. Usually on the inland lakes, you're not supposed to stay overnight, you know, moored out onto the lake. So I don't know if that's an issue in the lakes region, but let me double check and see about that, because I have not heard that issue, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I was thinking more of the seacoast because we have such a limited seacoast. And we also, you know, we have a lot of protected areas from anchorages and things like that. And it's great to buy a 42 footer, but if you have no place to put it, it can be problematic.
I think one of the things that I don't know if it's the purview of this committee, but the recruitment of Marine Patrol officers is difficult. I'm sure Captain Dunleavy has told you, it's not necessarily that it doesn't have the budget, it's just getting those bodies to want to become a Marine Patrol officer because it's seasonal. I honestly think that's something that we should try to put our heads and wrap our heads around, because I think that's important as these activities grow.
Yeah, great point.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. Oops. Next, Kristen.
All right, next we have Tom Praisel.
Welcome, Tom.
Morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, members of the, or good, I'm sorry, good afternoon, members of the committee. It's been a long morning. It's bleeding into the afternoon. So thank you. So my name is Tom Praisel. I've met most of you. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting Senator Ricciardi in person yet. However, I'm counting down the days until we're allowed to do that. So I'm the managing director at Demers and Praisel, and with me, I work with Jim Demers as well as Sean Thomas and a couple of your former colleagues, former Senator Betty Lasky and former Senator Nancy Stiles. So we have a very diverse book of clients, and a number of them come before the Senate and House Transportation Committees, including the New Hampshire Driver Education Teachers Association. We represent the Police Association and the Troopers Association. We represent FedEx, which to tap into Senator Waters' question earlier, I believe FedEx earlier this week, or maybe it was last week, announced that they plan to move their pickup and delivery fleets to electric by the year 2040. We also represent Calcami Enterprises, which provides boater education materials, as well as instruct some of the courses that are able to be taken online. They operate in a number of states, and they also provide OHRV and snowmobile instruction, which I know that Senator Waters included a provision of that into Senate Bill 131 that, it's going to be worked on with Colonel Jordan over the summer, and we'd love to, participate and provide any information we can in that process. We also represent the clerks and the tax collectors, which you're aware obviously collect motor vehicle registration fees. We represent the New Hampshire Motor Speedway, Enterprise Rent-A-Car, Walmart, as well as Casella Waste Management. So, we've got a very diverse group of clientele, but we enjoy working with all of you, and we hope that you'll look to us as a resource should you need any information, or if we can provide any help to you as you make your decisions on important legislation. And with that, I'll try to do my best to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from the committee? Senator Waters.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks, Tom. So my question was about driver ed, and we did some changes to the law about how much remote instruction would be done. And of course, here we are with COVID. And what's your sense about how what we did is working, and maybe whether we can do some more?
Yeah, so I think it's an interesting question. So you may recall a couple of years ago, you and Senator Birdsell worked on legislation to allow up to 15 hours of classroom instruction to be done remotely. That hasn't gotten up and running yet. We were meeting with the DMV director and other stakeholders for a number of months. And then obviously the pandemic happened, and those meetings kind of stopped and efforts were focused elsewhere. However, the governor did provide an emergency order to allow for the classroom instruction to be done remotely using a Zoom platform or other face-to-face, so that the instructors can be sure that the students are engaged in the process. And I think it certainly worked fairly well, and I think we're going to be working on conversations about what an online program would look like, be it something that's face-to-face with consistent engagement, or if it's just a class you take online. I think the association would prefer the engagement of one-on-one time, because they take what they learn in the classroom and then they go to practice that on the roads. And it's really that concurrent educational model that's really worked well over the years. So we certainly don't want to dilute the system, but we want to improve and modernize it where we can.
Thanks, Tom. Any questions? Seeing none? Thanks, Tom.
Well, thank you.
Hopefully see you soon.
I hope so.
All right, and our next speaker is Mark Brown.
Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Senator. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Senator Birdsell and members of the committee for the opportunity to introduce myself today. My name is Mark Brown. I am the Director of Government Affairs for Advantage Government Affairs here in New Hampshire, and I represent the Alliance for Automotive Innovation. The Auto Innovators was formed in 2020 by the combination of the Alliance of Automobile Manufacturers and the Association of Global Automakers. Essentially, we're the trade association that represents most of the cars manufactured on the planet. And I look forward to working with the committee on issues that affect the automobile manufacturing industry. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me if you ever have any questions or need any information from any of our members. And with that, I'll look forward to working with you and happy to take any questions.
Any questions from the committee? Senator Waters.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. And could you update us on the AVs and what you're seeing? And is anybody looking to start a test program up here, or where are we at?
Did you say AVs or EVs? AVs, right?
EVs,
Autonomous, yeah, autonomous vehicles. Unfortunately, because we're a trade association, I can't get any information. I'm blanking on it, but they can't share which company might be doing something, over another. It's proprietary, so I can't give you that. Or obviously, you read the news, and every day there's something new, some other advancement that's happening in the industry, and our members are investing billions of dollars in both AVs and EVs, and moving forward to further adoption of both.
So if I may follow up, Madam Chair.
Yep.
So Mark, just the kind of general question then, in terms of what you're seeing in the association in terms of technological advances, do you think that there's anything we should have on our radar screens about what we might, regulation or legislation we might have to be looking at to anticipate some of the things that are coming down the road, quite literally?
Yeah, well, from our perspective, we're always going to lean towards more of something regulated at the federal level, because obviously our manufacturers are selling cars in every state, so we want to avoid any situations where one state may be trying to do something that would handicap us in that state, where it doesn't matter really what it is, it's across the board. So that's one reason why we don't, we're not a big fan of EV mandates and that sort of thing. So
Thank you.
thank you, Senator. Thank you, committee. Take care.
You too. Next. Oh, Tom, did you have a question? Okay, sorry, Senator Sherman.
Okay. Oops. Our next speaker is Gary Abbott.
Welcome, Gary.
Thank you, Senator Birdsell, for this opportunity to talk to the Transportation Committee. I look forward to seeing everybody in person. Hopefully next year we'll all be back together. Just so everybody that knows me, I'm the Executive Vice President of the Associated General Contractors of New Hampshire. I represent building contractors, highway contractors, and subcontractors, about 100 companies. We work mostly for commercial and industrial. So any of those big contractors you see on the highways, or redoing our infrastructure, whether it's airports, school buildings, that's who we represent. So of course, I, as the executive director, get involved with a lot of issues. Transportation is one of those, but I also get involved with the environmental side, as well as the trucking side, as well as the budget for the DOT and where the projects are going to come from. And I also want to make you aware that we work with agencies directly on a lot of rules and regulations. So there's a lot of areas we cover. And before Senator Waters gets a chance to ask me questions, I'm going to jump to what our focus is. Our focus has clearly turned to Washington. The reauthorization of the Highway Act is up. Senator Biden, I think that's going to be the next project that President Biden works on. And so we're focused on how much money we're going to get back for New Hampshire I think we're looking at the Highway Act runs out September 30th. So the federal government needs to reauthorize it before then, so we'll know what money we have. We also are aware that the Secretary of Transportation, Buttigieg, is talking about vehicle miles traveled as looking into that. So I think it's going to switch the focus from, say, gas tax and those kind of things. I think if the federal government starts heading down the road of vehicle miles travel, it's going to then cover all types of vehicles, whether they're electric or gas. So I think the federal government's going to head in that direction. So our focus there is really, we were very thankful for the last Relief Act. $41 million came to New Hampshire for highways, and it was put in the budget in the highway trust, in our state highway trust fund. So it saves us for the next 2 years through the budget process where we were going to be in the deficit. So that helps us for the next 2 years of keeping the DOT and the highway projects going and plan with the 10-year highway plan. And I'll just go with one more thing. The 10-year highway plan, as you know, the next legislative session, that will become the focus. So there'll be some focus on where's the work next. We're very proud of what happened to I-93. Anybody who's driven down I-93 knows that that's been a very successful project for the state of New Hampshire and the contractors. That really has alleviated a big problem we had in New Hampshire. So we're looking to the future. I know I have some things I need to work on with Senator Waters, like glass and aggregates and those kind of things that we had before COVID, and I'm sure we'll get to that. But I just want to put out that if you end up with any topics dealing with infrastructure, whether it's airports or whether it's any of those things, feel free to call me. I think we want to be a resource to all of the senators. So I would answer any questions, and I don't want to use up all the time because I'm sure you have other speakers.
Any questions? Senator Waters.
Just a quick one, Gary, and thanks for being here. Do you think that the Congress is likely to fold an infrastructure bill and the FAST Act together?
I'm hoping they do because of the reauthorization timing. It all looks like it would make sense. And from we focus a little bit. I have a national office as well, and their lobbyists are looking at it, and we're hoping it's an act that's going to, be for the next 6 years and not just a one-time quick relief act. The issue is going to be what comes with that. You want the money, but also what requirements. That's what contractors are going to be looking at as to what strings for the state might come along. And if those are happening, we'll probably be back before this committee.
And the fact of the matter is that, that we, in terms of the general fund budget, we can't take account of that, and because it might not come in until the end of the year. But certainly in the 10-year highway plan, we'd be able to take into account whatever is happening in those, right? So
yeah, I think it would be really good timing if you think about it.
Yeah.
If we end up with an act passed by Congress that's multi-year, the whole 10-year planning becomes really easy for what we can allocate the money to, because from my position, most of the highway work is federally assisted. So most of our bigger projects around the state are federally assisted. So if they give us more money, there'll be more projects, and we'll be able to kind of catch up on our roads and bridges that need. I know bridges definitely still need a program to catch those up, both statewide and municipal wise.
Thank
Senator
you.
Waters, you got a question? I'm sorry, Senator Sherman. I'm looking at Senator Sherman and saying Senator Waters.
I am so honored to be mistaken, not only because I can't grow a beard to save my life, but also because I hold Senator Waters in such esteem. So Mark, thank you so much for coming today. I had a quick question. I think this will sound familiar to you. We looked back when I think it was when I was a state rep, so it might have been in 15 or 16, at the mileage being able to log mileage as we were trying to figure out how to balance hybrids and EVs with gasoline-powered cars. And so there was a significant pushback from the privacy folks on the government taking, monitoring mileage used or mileage logged. Is that something that you think will be so to speak, a speed bump in the road to coming to this? It does seem like it's the most equitable in terms of wear and tear of our roads.
Yeah, I agree with you. That has always been probably the biggest issue for me, vehicle miles traveled. Also, how you divide up the vehicle miles traveled among states. If I travel from here to California, how the states get allocated it's a lot more complicated than me just saying, oh, it's coming, it's going to be with us. I think the vehicle manufacturers have to get involved with some way of tracking that mileage in the vehicle. I think we're talking about technology doing that. I know we've looked in previous legislative sessions for a simple method. I know Representative Norm Majors had proposals to try to do something, and I think that's what you're talking about.
Yep.
But I think a national program might alleviate this, because I think we're all aware that electrical vehicles are coming, and they're also coming to the larger vehicles. And so there's going to have to be some way to pay for our roads and bridges. And we probably are going to have to, it'll be a long-term solution, but I think it's one in which if the Department of Transportation in Washington is going to start looking at it, it's going to take some planning. It's not going to be here next year or so, but I think we need to start recognizing that's probably the solution. And I agree with you. Privacy will be an issue, but I don't think it's one we can, I think it's one we can overcome.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
We're running a little bit longer than I'd anticipated. So who do we have next? Dan Bennett?
Yes.
Welcome, Dan.
Good afternoon. Can you all hear me?
We can. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Birdsell and members of the committee. Nice to see you all. Thanks for the chance to speak to you, and I will be brief. It's like being the last speaker stacked up against the lunch break, I guess. So
we already ate.
The New Hampshire Auditors Association is a trade group of a little over 500 businesses in the motor vehicle industry in the state. We're in every community, in every corner of the state. We have about 14,000 employees, and we actually make up about 24% of the state's retail sales. So we are car, truck, snowmobile, ATV, power sports, construction, farm equipment dealers, body shops, parts stores, and we are both franchised and independent members. We always like to point to the fact that we actually have more independent members than franchise folks in our association. So think of it as if it's got tracks and wheels and an engine, they're in our association. So I did send you all an email with a fact sheet and some contact information to speed up some of this stuff. I emailed it over to you earlier in the day, but 3 things I just want to hit on real quick that are really cornerstone issues for NHADA are roadway safety. Safe roads has always been important to us, whether it's the annual safety inspection program. New Hampshire has a 15% vehicle failure rate with that safety program. So even though they're done on an annual basis, it's still pretty high. Texting while driving is a critical issue. Motorcycle rider education and safety is very, very important. And so we serve on the State Traffic Safety Commission as a result, just based on our foundation belief in safe roads. Workforce education, many of you all are familiar with our workforce education, but our New Hampshire Automotive Education Foundation is a big component of our work. We really strive for a homegrown New Hampshire-based workforce to help these businesses be the economic engine. And there's a host of occupational opportunities in the motor vehicle space. It's not just wrenching on cars, trucks, and bikes. If you're tech and business savvy, the finance and and insurance offices for you. You may be into logistics and supply chain. Well, then you're a great fit for the parts department. There's also the service department, the sales department. So a lot of great careers. We work with the 20 high school and 5 community colleges on our education programs, along with the manufacturers, to make sure that there's current up-to-date industry curriculum for our technicians and employees that are coming out of there. Our Education Foundation, I do want to point out, over the past 25 years of its life, we've given away over $650,000 in scholarships. And that's to help young kids pay for school, pay for books. Maybe they've just graduated and they need a set of tools. The business doesn't pay for those tools. The employee pays for those tools. They're their property. So they bring them with them. So we help them get that jump start through scholarships. So we do some great work through an annual raffle kind of party that we do, raffle tickets. And this year, we're proud to say, for the first time in its history, there was a student technician who won. Through that one raffle ticket for $100, he won a $25,000 scholarship at a community college to pay for his entire education. And he's a student from Salem, was already signed up at Nashua Community College. He's going to be a Honda technician, and his education is paid for. So that's some of the good type of work that our NHEAF does. One of the other things I'll mention is AutoCap. This is our auto consumer complaint panel, and this is to help mediate disputes between customers and businesses. The Attorney General sends about 200 calls a year over to us to help mediate and help them solve. So if you have constituent concerns and we can help with them, please use that. The contact info is on the fact sheet that I sent you. A lot of times it's really miscommunication. The buyer didn't tell the salesperson that they wanted 2 names on the title, not 1. Or they wanted this one before that one, because it means they get their inspection done earlier or later in the year. Sometimes people didn't know what Tires for Life really means. And so it's a communication issue before it gets to the small claims court or the Attorney General's office. Just through communication, we find that we can resolve it. And I think we can help your constituents that way. So throughout the sessions, you'll hear from myself or Peter McNamara, our president, or a lot of times we like to bring our true industry experts in, the folks who are doing on day-by-day daily basis to offer their opinion. And then the last point that I'll mention is we are partners and we work very closely with the DMV and the DOS. They've got a great team over there. We really need to throw some kudos to them during this COVID time. Director Bielecki, Deputy Director Mike Todd and their team, Commissioner Quinn, Colonel Noyes, and Sergeant Player. I apologize for the name dropping, but I really should. That team has done stellar throughout this time. We've heard of other DMVs in other states that had shutdowns for almost 30 days at a time. The New Hampshire DMV had a 2-day shutdown. So the governor declared vehicle sales and service to be an essential service. Our workload and needs at the DMV never dropped down. Titles were being processed. Inspection technicians needed to get to work. Dealerships were bought and sold. And they handled it in an incredibly highly and efficient manner and made sure that all those operations were uninterrupted. So I'd just like to make you aware of, from the business perspective, kudos to them for really assisting with that continuity and allowing our doors to stay open. And then just in general, we really look forward to working with you over the next 2 sessions. We do spend a lot of time in the transportation room, and we're looking forward to getting back in there. It is a light session on your end for us. But you will hear from us on a few bills, but we look forward to working with you. And if there's any information or anything that we can provide or offer or connect you with a local business in your community, we would love to. So thanks. And if there are any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Senator Ward.
Hi, Dan. Ruth Ward. So we have talked a lot in the past about technicians. Do you have enough of them? Are enough of them being educated and trained?
There's never enough. I think that really would be that would be our answer. Our auto programs in the high school level, the 20 CTEs, are doing well, as are our community college programs. However, it still doesn't meet the workload. we can always use more. We're always trying to get kids involved into the pipeline earlier. CTE at the 10th and 11th grade is great. We have businesses that are currently inviting their local Cub Scout troops into the service department in the 8th grade to show them how cool it is, and these toys that are at a snowmobile or motorcycle dealership. So we are always trying to bring more in. So our industry needs satisfied, whether it's on the sales staff front or the technician or service writer front. Their answer is no, but we're doing our best. And we're fighting against some big industries like you heard from Gary Abbott and the truckers and the welders down at the shipyard. So the trades folks, the builders and contractors. So we're all fighting for that talented pool. But we are doing our best, but I'd say it's not enough.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Senator Waters.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And really, Dan, not so much questions, is just to, I wanted to reiterate that it was great the governor kept you all open. I mean, that was just a really smart move, and it was just the right thing to do. And I watched the registration and title numbers every month in the monthly revenue report, and it's just awfully good to see. This has been a good spot. I also wanted to just really commend you all publicly for the incredible work with the CTEs. These are, really important programs, and a lot of the CTEs wouldn't have that great equipment and be up to date if it weren't for you all in the scholarship program. And I also want to, just thank you for your participation in the Career and Technical Education Advisory Council. It really helps us have an ear to the ground as to what the industry is doing. And I guess my one question would be, just looking forward a little bit. I mean, you're going to see, just massive changes in your industry, right, over the next several years. I mean, even Massachusetts seems to be on the cusp of banning the sale of non-electric vehicles after 2035, and some other states in Europe 2025, 2030. And so do you kind of want to give us a heads up, anything that you're anticipating because of all these changes that might affect what we're doing up here in Senate Transportation?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll mention on a few things quickly, and thanks for taking note of how we did during the COVID time during the spring and the summer. Our industry did well at that point until we ran into supply issues, manufacturer issues, hard good issues. You're hearing things now about semiconductor chips that are involved in vehicles. It's slowing down inventory issues. In the late spring, early summer, I say the only businesses that probably did better than us were the outdoor gear stores and the bicycle shops. Business was booming for them. But thanks for taking notice of that. On the CTE component, we have, as I mentioned, we've long believed we need a New Hampshire homegrown workforce, and we have invested in it. At the high school and college levels, our business owners, some of their service managers, they sit on those high school advisory boards, which are so key for the CTEs to have successful programs. So on that front, I believe we really do, we walk the walk on it. So thanks for that. And as you know, our involvement in the EVs, it's coming, it's here. You hear some of those manufacturer plans. Volvo all electric in the next 9 years, GM by 2035. A tire is a tire. We're going to have to be prepared for brakes and tires as we are now, but electrical infrastructure diagnosis when there's failure is a whole new skill set that our technicians will have to do. Some of that diagnosis may be just done over the air, like a software upgrade. But you'll still have to have the understanding of what that upgrade did to the vehicle's operational infrastructure. So there will be a big curve with EVs, but as we know, they're coming. They're here. It's going to go at a rapid rate. Sales staff needs to get spun up on what the rules are. And through our work with your EV Infrastructure Commission and the Emissions Commission, we understand that it's got to be, or our view is that it's got to be a holistic approach. You need a chicken and an egg. You need the chargers so that people come, but you need the vehicles so that people have the vehicles to charge when they do it. You need a home charging infrastructure, but you also need to be able to get to Cannon and back. So there's a lot of facets of the EV, discussion, but we're well aware that they're here, and it's the direction the industry is going. I was on the road with I have 12-year-old twin boys. I was on the road with them this weekend, and we saw the new Ford Mach-E Mustang. It was silver. It was a sharp-looking car. My kids were wowed. I tried to explain to them that we could purchase 3 Subarus for the cost of that one electric Mustang. I didn't win the argument. They are infatuated with looking and seeing that vehicle, and very interesting. So we know the technology is coming. We know the next generation is interested in that, and we got to be prepared for it.
Yeah, well, just if I may, Madam Chair, just say, look, you watch out. They're developing 1,000 horsepower one, okay?
No.
Electric.
I hope there's a governor switch on it or something.
All right. We're running a little bit late in time, but any other questions for Dan?
Nope.
All right. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next, we have Richard Parsons.
And it looks like it's 2 more people to speak. So welcome, Richard.
Good afternoon, committee. How are you all doing? I'll be exceedingly brief. I will kind of be in front of the committee likely in Transportation Committee for a couple of different clients, including New Hampshire Off-Highway Vehicle Association, Eversource, Amazon, the Greater Manchester Chamber. Obviously, they all have very broad interests a lot of times. So I'll be here for a lot of different things. I guess I'll just mention very quickly, Senator Waters, thank you for introducing Section 4 on Senate Bill 131 on the safety certificates. We know there's obviously some issues with it, but I think it started a very good conversation. Rental industry in particular saw a huge boom last year. And I think a lot of them are making commitments to adjust their business models to try and help with the safety incidents. And all of us want to make sure that people are safely operating these vehicles because, there's very important public-private partnerships. So with that said, you'll hear from either myself, Dave, Gina, Kyle, or Bobby from our practice group on different times, and I'll leave it at that.
Great. Any questions for Richard? Seeing none. Thank you, Richard. We look forward to seeing you in person again.
Yes, look forward to it. Thanks.
And our final speaker, it looks like, Bob Scully. Welcome, Bob.
Good afternoon, Senators. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Pleasure to be here today. Brief history. I have had the pleasure of being a president of the New Hampshire Motor Transport Association for the last 32 years. We have over 300 members in the state of New Hampshire, everything from a single truck owner to Federal Express and UPS, just to give you an idea of the size and scope of the different companies we have. Our issues that are important to us over in your body deal with safety, registration, size and weight. We deal with labor issues, environmental issues, and over the course of the years, we worked very hard to protect Article 6A from legislative attempts to take money out of the highway fund and use them for areas that they shouldn't be used for. During this last year, the industry that I represent was deemed essential, so our members were on the road all the time delivering products. And it's not their fault. We didn't have any toilet paper in the beginning of the year because we had delivered it, okay? Well over 90% of all the supplies and goods that come in the state of New Hampshire come by truck. Well, there is rail, air, and water. The lion's share of all of it comes by truck. So I would say everything in your home, to the stores that you go to the food that you buy, came on a truck. Our single largest issue that we have in the industry is lack of qualified drivers. We can't get them. Before COVID, during COVID, and after COVID. You have to be 21 and drive a commercial motor vehicle. So when you're 18, you get out of high school and you don't want to go to college and you want to do a trade, you may not get behind the wheel of a truck until you're 21. So we lose opportunities there. We've made multiple attempts at the federal level to get pilot programs or projects in place under certain conditions to get younger drivers behind the wheels, and have not been successful in that. We're a very highly regulated industry. There's hazmat restrictions, there's drug testing, you need to be 21, there's hours of service limitations on what you can drive. So it's, and for the New Hampshire folks, for our private carriers, they get to go home at night, but the over-the-road guys, they can be gone up to 6 weeks at a time. And that is not very attractive to many people from their families now, when they can do a different vocation and make the same or more money and go home at night every night. Our office, we also give you a little flavor here. We also operate and run the Vermont Truck and Bus Association, the Energy Marketers Association, which are companies that provide heating oil and propane to your homes and businesses in New Hampshire, as well as the Propane Gas Association in New England. We have a self-funded workers' comp program for the trucking industry in New Hampshire. We're also a third-party administrator for workers' comp, and we also administer the New Hampshire Restaurant and Lodging Association workers' comp program. So that's a very quick snapshot of what we do. I know I'm looking at the clock, so I'm 48 minutes past, or 28 minutes past the 1:30 deadline. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you have.
Any questions from the committee?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Bob. I'll talk to you soon. All right. If there's anyone on the line that would like to speak, that to present themselves, please speak now. All right. With that, it doesn't look like, Kirsten, there is anyone, right? Correct?
I don't see any hands.
All right, so since we're already about 28 or 20 minutes late, do I hear a motion to?
So moved.
All right, motion by Senator Waters, seconded by Senator Sherman, and I'll take the roll. Senator Sherman, I'm
Yes.
sorry, Senator Waters.
Yes.
Senator Ward. Senator, you're muted.
Yes.
Senator Sherman.
Yes.
Oops. Senator Rishardi.
Yes.
And Senator Birdsell is yes. All right. So why don't we take I'm going to take up the longest bill first, kind of get that done. And that's Senate Bill 131. And I know I've talked to most of you, especially Senator Waters, since he's the my vice chair. We have had to make I think he has offered to make a change in section 1. I knew there was going to be issues. I talked to the governor's office, and there was going to be probably some trouble with some of the pieces of his bill. So we've nailed it down to 3 pieces. The electric vehicle charging station requirements, which I feel is actually really important because of, and based on some of the things that we've been hearing from our lobbyists, the charging stations do need to be accessible to the public with different types of universal hookups, because the more electric cars we're seeing in here, and not all of them are going to be able to be used. For instance, the station, the way station in on 93 is only used accessible to Tesla. So with a lot of tourists coming up and down who are going to be probably in the near future going to be using electric vehicles, we need universal hookups for the electric cars. So we want to keep that in there. The section 3 or the revitalization of tax relief is actually enabling legislation for the towns to be able to give tax relief to two residential homes who, for their electric vehicle supply equipment. And then the electric vehicle charging station rate designs. That is, they're already working. This is basically telling the PUC that they need to, and Senator Waters, feel free to correct me, whatever I'm saying if it's not right. It's just telling the PUC that they need to start getting ready to put some design standards together. And I think Senator Waters, do you want to go a little bit into detail on that?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sorry. So this language emerged from the commission from Unitil and Eversource. And there is one docket for Eversource underway in the PUC that's related to EV charging, which is, largely, based on what you see here. And Unitil is about the docket that also is going to have charging issues in it. And so this basically would codify for the PUC and statute the kind of principles that make sense for this. So that's it in a nutshell.
All right. And any questions from the committee? You all should have a copy of this. I think Kirsten sent it out, the draft. Sorry.
Yes, actually, just a couple minutes ago, I sent out the version from OLS. So it was completed and I did just send it. So.
Okay, great. So
That's
that
a question, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Are we going to have a separate amendment that strikes out the other sections and does the things we discussed, or are we just going to do that as a committee amendment?
Well, I was thinking we can do just one major amendment and have it be a committee amendment.
Okay, so there really wouldn't be a need to move this. It would, I guess we need to have a committee amendment then that does the other stuff too, but then it will incorporate this?
Yes.
So what would it make sense to move this and then use it to do the other things? Or, I just don't know how to proceed.
Well, what I was thinking is going, first, let's go through all of the sections. And then that's actually a really good idea to use your amendment and make that our committee amendment. Does that work?
Whatever you'd like, yeah, just,
Yeah.
well, I guess, so I guess it would make sense that why don't I move and we can second this one, and then in the discussion, we'll add this other stuff to it.
Yeah, okay.
Is that a good way to go? All right.
Senator Ward, do you have a question?
Yes, I do, because where was this new amendment sent? Was it sent to Drive 1 or OneDrive or whatever? I don't have a printer in this room. So if there's something that I need to know, I need to go to the other room where my other computer with a printer is and get it. So.
Kirsten, did you send it via email or is it on the OneDrive?
Yes, I did both. It's in the OneDrive and I sent it to both of everybody's emails as well.
Okay, I haven't seen it yet, so, okay.
All right. But I know that we've pretty much discussed these changes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so any questions about the changes? Oh, Senator Waters moved the amendment, correct?
Yeah, I move it.
And we need a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, Senator Ward.
I'll second.
So any discussion on the first part?
Thanks for your work.
So you did all the work, Senator Waters, but in listening to this conversation that we've had, and I'm glad that I actually brought some of these lobbyists in, because I am going to work, I am going to discuss with our caucus maybe moves to look at the all electric vehicles, because it does look like a lot of the companies are going that way. So that's going to be a discussion that I'm going to have with my caucus at a later time. So Section, Senator Sherman, yeah.
Just a quick question. I think Senator Waters, you and I had talked about this, but Senator Birdsell brought it up, and it remains a big concern of mine, is the lack of universality of these charging stations. I believe Tesla has offered to make theirs the universal one, but what are we going to do what is the plan, or what is your vision of how we move forward with that? This seems sort of the patchwork quilt approach, not your bill or the amendment, but just what we're left with, sort of the patchwork quilt approach to charging.
Well, I guess, Tom, we can let how the state spends its money. And I think, as this bill reflects, that if we're putting public dollars or grants that come through the state into this, it's got to be accessible for everybody. This is the public benefit, public use.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we can regulate what a private company that is paying for its own charging system does. I suspect the industry is going to find a way to move towards universal, or find a way to have adapters, or just, some way to do it, because it does, the patchwork quilt, I agree, makes no sense. But I don't think we can regulate that right now.
Now, I guess I'm just thinking back, and I don't know the answer to this, and maybe you don't either, but when I go to the gas station, I have the same size nozzle. It goes into the same size hole in the car. And that's all regulated somehow. Is that all industry driven, or is that federally regulated?
I don't know, but you can be sure it took a long time for that to evolve, but I don't know.
And currently, for instance, Senator Sherman, I think Senator Waters and I were discussing this, that the charging stations at the rest stops on 93 are actually owned by Tesla, and so they offered to put those in there, and they paid for it. So it's really their charging station. Right. So based on what Senator Waters, I agree with Senator Waters that they own it. We can't tell them how to do it, but any charging stations, let's say on public property, need to be universal, so that we can start having other models being able to use those charging stations. So,
right, okay.
Any other questions on section 1? All right, section 2. How is everyone with section 2 on the abandoned or disabled vehicles by towing?
Good to go.
Yep, I'm okay with it.
All right. How about the municipal water maintenance certification program?
I'm good with it.
I'm fine with that.
Let's keep the president happy, Madam Chair.
So section 4, implementing a mandatory OHRD. Now, Senator Waters and I have talked about this, and we know that Fish and Game isn't ready to pick this one up and run with it. Although listening to some of it is going to be needed, but I think we should probably pull this out and try working a solution with Fish and Game for next session. Senator Sherman. Yep.
Yeah, I think we were talking about this in either this committee or another committee, but I think Senator Waters was in on the discussion. Mm-hmm. If it gets pulled out, does that mean we can't bring it back next session?
No, we can bring it back next session.
All right.
Because it's not being voted on.
I got it. Okay.
It's going to the floor, not in it, so it's not a bill.
Perfect.
The eligibility for issuance of non-driver's picture ID card. Everyone good with that?
Mm-hmm.
It's a request from the Department of Safety.
Safety, yep.
It's fine.
The operation of bicycles at or approaching intersections. I had a conversation with the Department of Safety yesterday and Lieutenant Platt, and they would want to change to give safety or emergency responders free from liability. So I think for the time being, we need to pull this out and actually have Gary Daniels work on it, because there's a few, Senator Waters, you found some tweaks that needed to be made, as well as I think we really need to look in and get the wording appropriate for the first responders free from liability. And I'm not sure we have the time to do that right now. Is everybody okay with that?
Mhm.
I finally, after talking to Lieutenant Platt, I finally figured out what the bill meant. And I do agree that they haven't served anyone or charged anyone with any violations. So we're good for a while anyway. Certificate of boating safety. Everybody good with that?
All set?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. And the medical services chiefs and fire chiefs decals, everyone good with that?
Yep.
Was there, I have a note here, change reference. Did you, Senator Waters, did you have some changes in that? 7, 8.
In 8?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Oh, yes. Kirsten, if you could make this change, the where, I'm glad I saw that, where it says on page 29, line 12. It was the wrong RSA.
Oh, yeah.
So it's RSA 261-B3. Sorry, 261-B:3A.
Okay. And then just going back real quick to make sure I have it right for the record, you wanted to delete section 6 on the bicycles.
Correct.
Okay.
I also have a note here on line 14, fire use. Were we supposed to put that in there? Emergency medical services chiefs and fire chiefs, provided that such decals are issued solely to emergency medical service personnel. Does anyone remember that line? Fire use.
It should be in the hearing report.
Right. Thank you. Section 8. Mr. Oberdank said he wanted to point out the technical defect on page 29, line 12, which we did. All organizations listed under there are charitable organizations that meet. But we suggest moving to, okay, so now that's the only thing that was set in the hearing report, was the change in the RSA.
Mhm.
Madam Chair?
Yep.
Just one question on that. In line 15,
On
what
20,
is the,
page 29.
yeah, in the bill itself, it's Roman 16.
Yeah.
So why do they include retired emergency medical services personnel? Is that out of respect or?
Sounds like it. And I was wondering whether that was where the fire came in too. I mean, the decal program is that people can get, they pay
They pay the
their-
501c3.
they pay their extra fee. And then there's a charitable contribution that the charity sets.
Yep.
So does the original statute or existing statute, does it recognize Issued solely to emergency. I'm just trying to read whether maybe it, because it's focused just on emergency medical services personnel and retired emergency medical services personnel, is it supposed to also read fire?
I think so.
Medical services chiefs and fire chiefs, provided that such decals
I have to go back to the RSA and
is,
Well, this is new language, so it wouldn't be in the RSA.
right. So I'm just, maybe that's the problem, is that it doesn't include the fire side.
Mhm.
is there anyone on the call that might be able to answer that?
What I would suggest,
We can,
you could add and retired emergency medical services personnel and retired fire personnel.
Or you could put it into one that said emergency medical services and fire personnel.
fire chiefs, fire personnel.
Birdsell, if
Yeah,
I
I
may.
think, yeah,
I recall Mr. Overdank saying that the reason he wanted fire in there was because some emergency services are very intertwined with fire chiefs, and sometimes they are headed up by the fire departments and not standalone. I
Yeah,
believe
so-
that was what it was.
so
Okay.
what Tom just suggested, so it could read emergency medical services and fire personnel.
Right.
Do you want to keep fire chiefs in there or just fire personnel?
Well, if the chief is personnel. So up top, it says, I'm talking about line 15.
Yep. Okay.
Line 14 stays. Line 15 says solely to emergency medical services and fire personnel.
Personnel and retired emergency medical services personnel.
And maybe and fire too. Why not? Why not? I think the point is that if they can be betwixt and between, we ought to make sure both are included.
All right.
Yeah, so be inclusive rather than,
So both
Makes sense.
places on line 15, both places. So
it would be medical service personnel and fire personnel. Well, medical services personnel, fire personnel, retired emergency medical services personnel, and retired fire personnel.
no, I think you can do it simpler than that.
yeah, just
If
say
you just, right, go ahead, David. I think you got it.
say, okay, so Regina, line 15,
Mhm.
solely to emergency medical services and fire personnel
Fire personnel. Yep.
and retired emergency medical services and fire personnel.
But didn't.
So the whole line would read,
Okay, so the retired covers the retired personnel.
yeah, so the whole line would read,
Yeah.
solely to emergency medical services and fire personnel and retired emergency medical services and fire personnel.
Okay. So the
Right.
retired references both the emergency, the EMS and the fire personnel.
Yeah.
Okay. You got that, Kirsten?
I do.
All right. And the private roads, Senator Waters and I had talked about making that a committee to study versus, because there's a lot of consternation, there's a lot of issues, we understand that. But I'm not sure that we're capable of making that change for private roads. I'm not sure it's constitutional. But there are a lot of questions that need to be answered. So Senator Waters and I had talked about making it a study committee to go over some of the issues, and we could, when they're in the study committee, we can study the fact that are all the roads standardized? Do we have the capability of requiring the private roads when they're being built to be built to town specification? What were some of the other things?
Well, what I would suggest, Madam Chair, looking at it, is that that we have a study committee that would look at everything that is from line 36 on page 29 through line 9 on page 30. Those are the issues. So that the study would look at those issues.
What are your thoughts on that? The rest of
Well,
the,
I think that the towns can probably make a request of the developers when they're developing a subdivision that they have to do the roads to certain standards. Because right now they can just put in roads and the towns are not willing to accept roads below standards. So that's just the way it is with the planning boards.
And I remember, see, I don't remember, I mean, maybe it was 6 years ago, we had a conversation about this because of some environmental requirements about water drainage and stormwater.
Mm-hmm.
And all the developers came in and said that if you make us go up to those standards, we lose 1 or 2 lots. And especially if you have a mitigation issue with a wetland area or something
Right.
like that.
Right.
And so, and then I talked to my city manager yesterday or a couple of days ago about it, and it was the same thing. You know, we accept roads, but it's oftentimes it's the private association and developer who don't want to go to the town standards. And so, I mean, it's a problem. It's a problem because, you know, if something was built to the standards, then yeah, the towns and cities are generally, you know, with some kind of wrangling, they'll take them. But
I also think if they're not up to standard and developers, for example, the people living in this area don't like to have traffic going through them, they have to understand that they cannot just expect the town to take it over whenever they feel like it.
I agree. And, you know, we got in the testimony, we heard a couple of things where the original developer was bankrupt. So,
Yep.
you know, if the thing wasn't paved well, or, you know, then who do they turn to? So I mean, it's a mess, huh?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Senator Sherman, I hear you. Director Balicki has her hand up to speak, so
It's fine.
I'd like to.
I defer.
Director.
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, I'm Elizabeth Bilecki, Director of Motor Vehicles, and I apologize, I had my hand up for a while when you were speaking to the decal bill. I just wanted to chime in when you asked if there was anybody listening in. So I did want to let you know that there is a current law that speaks to firefighter decals. Can you hear me okay? I see you leaning in a little bit.
There's a little bit of noise, background noise, but that's okay.
Okay. So there is currently a section that speaks to that, and it's RSA 261B3-B, firefighter decals. And I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of it so that your revisions are kind of consistent with that as well. And it currently speaks to, or reads, a city or town fire chief may issue a firefighter decal to a full-time or volunteer firefighter employee by the city or town or retired firefighter. And then it just talks about being, having the decal placed on a multi-use decal plate. So I don't know how that coincides with the emergency medical services chiefs and emergency medical services personnel, but you may want to take a look at that section to propose your revisions and maybe have part A of that deal with firefighters and part B of that particular section of law deal with medical emergency personnel?
Director, could you give that citation again?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's RSA 261-B:3-B.
Hmm.
So, Director, so what you're saying is there's already one in there to take care of firefighters.
Exactly. Firefighters and retired firefighters as well.
Okay, so 3A is firefighter decals. Yeah. A city or town fire chief may issue a firefighter decal to a full-time volunteer firefighter employed by the city or town. Firefighter decal may only be placed on the multi-use decal plate of a motor vehicle. So, and that's 3A. And that's why it was suggested that I'm sorry, the firefighter is 3A, correct?
It's 3B.
Oh, so that's why he suggested that we make the EMT version a 3A.
There's already a 3A that speaks about authorized organizations. So you may want to, and there is a 3C, so you may want to just break up the 3B into both firefighter and emergency personnel, and maybe just insert that language into just that one paragraph as well.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it could be, how about this, Elizabeth? It could be 3B1 and 3B2.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just wanted you to
We don't want to put that language that Tom and I ignorantly wrestled into it at all, right?
I'm still trying to find the statute.
I wanted you to know that there's already provisions.
Yeah, okay.
For firefighters in there.
You're very
as well.
kind. You're very kind. I think that, Senator Birdsell would appreciate that she was trying to do a quick tug and a choke collar when we started going. But so would that make sense then, Madam Chair, is that what we'll do is what exists here will become 3B2 and the current 3B will become 3B1.
And Madam Chair, if I could just suggest that you also include similar language to that last sentence of the firefighter provision that basically says that such decal may only be placed on that multi-use decal plate, because that also makes sense that these decals are not placed on any other plates other than the one that's authorized for its use.
So I'm looking at this. So 3A is for the firefighter decals. So it would be 3A1 and 3A2, are we saying?
263B3B is firefighter decals. So I believe
It's not what I have here. I have B:3-A.
Sorry, I'm looking in my hard print book for the current ones for 2020, 2021 revision, but I can look online.
So section 261B3 is authorized organizations. Section 261B3A is firefighter decals. And then section 261B3B is authorized organizations.
So in my book, my printed book, 261B3A in here is authorized organizations, and it authorizes University of New Hampshire Foundation to issue decals. That was effective June 2nd, 2017. But I can look online to see if I see anything different online. At least this is what I'm seeing in print.
And online, it was the firefighter decal at 3A was effective August 1st, 2017 as well.
That's exactly what I have in here. So I'm not sure if legislative services could help with that discrepancy. But I know I'm looking at the blue codification book of motor vehicle laws 2020-21 edition, and that's what I'm seeing in print, but it appears that there's a bit of an inconsistency there.
Right. I think we need to have OLS look at that when we have them put the
Oh yeah, because I see that online, I'm sorry, 263B, 263B3B has that provision of authorized organizations, and so it might be just the print, it might be just an error in the printed version.
I think Senator Birdsell's right, that if you look at, would you look please, Director, at 361B3A?
Yeah, I'm looking at the online version, which is different than my
That's what
printed
I have
book.
too.
So, yeah, so it could be just a misprint in the printed version.
Yeah, so I think what we want to do then is that we'll make 361A, the existing one will become 361A1.
Yeah.
And then this new one will become 361A2.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, and then add that sentence, the firefighter decal, to the end of A2.
That would be great.
Kirsten,
Got
did
it?
you
got
get that? Let me make.
So I have it as A2. That's language. That's where we're putting it. We're correct.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, and then the language that you want to change it to. So I'm sorry, I don't have a print copy of the RSA in front of me. So
Well, aren't we going to keep it the same?
As, and then add the sentence that is in 3A, now 3A1,
Right.
that says this decal may be only placed on a multi-use decal plate of a motor vehicle registered and owned or leased by and then the people named. So that's the template, that sentence added to 3A2.
So, Kirsten, I presume it would say an emergency medical services decal may only be placed on a multi-use decal plate of a motor vehicle registered and owned or leased by the emergency services personnel. That sound right? Okay.
Yeah, that was easy.
Spend more time on this one than any of them. But anyway, the language stays the same in the bill. It's just the reference number is going to change, and that last sentence. Okay.
got it.
Okay. Back to section. Are you good, Director?
I am good. Thank you for letting me chime in. I appreciate it.
Thanks for warning us. All right, back to section 9 on private roads. Where were we? We were talking about doing
Study committee.
right. Oh, and Senator Sherman, you wanted to make a statement. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to pose in terms of the charge of the committee, it seems to me, reading the committee report, listening to the testimony, and I had a nice talk with Roger Savini this morning. This reflects a lot of problems in the process of developing private roads and then maintaining them. And it sort of does a one size fits all solution to that by putting the burden on the towns. And I queried all 11 of my towns, and unanimous thumbs down for this. And as you can expect, especially with the NHMA coming out saying there's 2 issues of constitutionality. So the bottom line is, it would be great if the committee would, and we could get this out of the committee report, but a few of the things that came up were, how does a homeowners association or a subdivision manage their road if the developer has gone bankrupt? I mean, there's no recourse. There's nothing they can do. Another one is, there's a difference between private roads that are private roads just because they've always been private roads, and the public uses them, and then private roads where they are exclusive with exclusive access. And the public is excluded from those private roads. There's also the safety concerns, which is probably my biggest concern, is that these roads are actually developed in a way that will make it unsafe for EMS and fire to come down them. And I think that gets back to what Senator Ward was talking about. So what I'm getting at is that when you start going through the committee report, you start listing out the issues with private roads. It would be great if the committee looked at those as well to see if there might be pockets of legislation like requirements for developers when they do this, whether they put some funding in escrow before they start the development, whether they have to have at least a minimum requirement of meeting the needs for EMS and fire and emergency personnel to access the subdivision. And then if the town actually, we heard several pieces of testimony where the town had said at some level that they would agree to take over the road or at, down the road, and they actually didn't. So, we heard all sorts of stories. I don't know how much of it is true. I assume it's all true because the people are testifying that's what their experience is. And then the final one that I was thinking about, it kind of like when I get consent for a procedure, a lot of patients don't really pay a whole lot of attention. And Roger and I were talking about how you are given one of these strong legal, big legal documents with all the disclosures in it when you buy the house. But maybe in other places, we've had fairly simple pamphlets that say, here's what you're getting yourself into when you're buying into a private road. All of those, I don't know what the answer is, but what strikes me is so much misinformation, misunderstanding, miscommunication, and then ultimately, most importantly, is the safety issue of access.
Well, I think that's why we want to, there's a number of issues that we need to deal with. We could do one of two things. We could actually put in the commission now, or we could hold off, but I don't think that would satisfy the needs of the constituents that we heard. But we need to get to the bottom line of what's going on with the private roads. So, I mean, I think we should do some kind of a committee to find out some of the issues. And like you said, are there piecemeal parts that we could go ahead and put some legislation in through this, after this committee? Senator Waters.
Madam Chair, procedurally, I everything what everybody's saying in the hearing report, the serious things. I don't know how we can today come up with an adequate study committee definition.
Fair.
So I think there's a couple of options. I mean, I think for our purposes, we ought to just delete it. And then if it's Senator Carson, right?
Correct.
Yep.
Is it her bill? Yeah. So the option that if she can come up with language for a study by the time we hit the floor, great. But otherwise, since the president has ruled that deleting it doesn't mean it can't come back up, it's pretty clear. They've got the committee report, and she could, she wouldn't be able to introduce a bill until next year anyways. So why don't we just delete it and say, you'll be able to introduce a bill in January and figure out, what to do. So that's.
I think he got frozen.
Yep.
Yes.
It's frozen.
I'm fine with either deleting it or doing a study committee.
What is, Senator Ward, what are your thoughts?
I think deleting it and have come up with some very specific items that we are to look at.
Okay, Senator Rishardi?
I agree with deleting it because I think it's too broad right now and it needs to be readdressed.
Yeah, and you all are probably right, because it's getting fairly complicated on all of the issues that are going to need to be studied. So we can take out part 9, delete part 9, and move forward. And I'll talk to Senator Carson, and I'll also talk to Senator Daniels on the pieces that have been taken out and explain to them why. I don't think Senator Carson is going to have too much heartburn about it, but it is something that we should probably look at in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we have to, there he is. He's back. So we have, let me just summarize. We have the amendment from Senator Waters on part 1. We're going to be leaving in the removal of abandoned disabled vehicles, the winter maintenance, deleting the OHRV and snowmobile. The non-driver's picture ID stays in. The operation of bicycles is being deleted. Certificate of boating safety is staying in. And we're going to, and we're changing the medical services decal, and then we're deleting the private roads.
And we've already got a motion and a second on this, right? So all we have to do is vote? Or do we have to do this as a separate committee amendment?
No.
Just a vote, right?
But we have to make sure that, Kirsten, just make sure you have all the changes to be placed on that Senator Waters amendment. Does everyone want to be on this amendment? Okay, everyone's going on it.
Teamwork.
All right. So we have ought to pass motion on the amendment. Kirsten, where are we at this point? What do we need?
We need, well, we've already motioned the amendment, so we just need a vote on ought to pass as amended.
Don't we have to vote the amendment first and then vote ought to pass on as amended?
Yeah.
Yes, you're correct. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, we've moved on the amendment, seconded, and the motion is do I hear a motion of ought to pass?
We have it already.
All right.
In a second.
So we just need to vote on the amendment, then we need to do a second vote on ought to pass as amended.
I'll take the roll. Senator Waters.
Yes.
Senator Ward.
Yes.
Senator Sherman.
Yes.
Senator Rishardi.
Yes.
Senator Birdsell is yes.
I'll move ought to pass as amended.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Senator Sherman moves ought to pass as amended, and Senator Ward seconds. Senator Waters.
Yes.
Senator Ward.
Yes.
Senator Sherman.
Yes.
Senator Rishardi.
Yes.
Senator Bertzel votes yes.
Consent?
How does everyone feel about consent?
I'm good.
Fine.
It's an FN.
Ah, it is? Yes, it is. All of
Yes, it
these
is.
are FNs. Okay, so it has to go to the floor. So no consent. All right. So we're,
Senator Waters is taking it out, I presume.
I guess, if you like. I mean, whatever you like, Senator Bertzel.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
Yeah.
It's complicated. All right. All right, why don't we do, Senate Bill 117. This is the tolls at exit 10 in Merrimack. I know this is going to be somewhat controversial, but do we need to have a motion?
Motion for ought to pass?
Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
second. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever.
Senator Ward moves ought to pass. Senator Ricciardi seconds. Any discussion?
So what you had, as I'm trying to recall, Senator Birdsell, you had determined that there was going to be an attempt to do something in the budget or tenure about this? that
Yes.
Senator Morse said, or?
That is the last conversation I had with Senator Morse, that my understanding is that it will be tabled and either placed into the budget or wait for the 10-year plan. Or we can re-refer it as well.
Because it'll go to finance?
Yes, they're all going to finance,
Is it?
unless it's waived. And God only knows what's going to happen in the House. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, or, but I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I found myself, I found myself convinced by both sides. We had the report that day about the revenue issues, and it is a kind of a narrow argument that says, well, once something's paid for, you don't have to pay for it again, and because then anybody could do that about anything in the state. But on the other hand, I think a good case was made by Senator Daniels. So I guess to where I've gotten to on it is we could pass it, and I have absolute faith in what Senator Morse indicates that he will try to do.
All right.
So shouldn't we? I mean, I think we might as well proceed, Madam Chair.
Okay. So the motion is ought to pass and seconded. I'll take the rolls. Senator Waters,
Yes.
Senator Ward,
Yes.
Senator Sherman,
Yes.
Senator Ricciardi,
Yes.
and Senator Bertzel is yes. And it's an FN, so it can't go on consent.
Senator Birdsell, FNs can go on consent.
Oh, that's true. They can. Because there's a couple of on consent on this week's calendar, I believe.
Oh, was that a change in our rules?
No, we've done that. I'm trying to remember which, we've actually had a few FNs on consent over the last
Yeah, in fact,
this session.
I think there's 142, which was a commission. The PTSD commission was an FN, and I've asked Senator Daniels to take it on, and that's on consent because I have to make an amendment to it.
Well, if that's the case, and considering, I don't want to spend 11 hours on the floor. And So why don't we do consent on this one, then we can go back and do consent on the other one too. Why not?
Reconsideration.
I'll second.
I don't think we have to reconsider
We never
on
voted.
the other one,
Right.
yeah.
That's true. Okay. Okay, you moved consent, Senator Sherman,
Sure.
and I'll second. Senator Waters,
Yes,
Senator Ward,
Yes.
Senator Sherman,
Yes.
Senator Rishardi.
Yes.
All right.
and
And
I'll
I'll-
move,
Go ahead,
go
Dave.
ahead, Tom.
I'll move consent on SB 131.
All right. Senator Waters,
I'll second and vote yes.
thank you. Senator Ward,
Yes.
Senator Sherman,
Yes.
Senator Rishardi,
Yes.
Senator Bursell votes yes. So this is on, so Senate Bill 131 is on consent. Senate 117 is on consent.
And excuse me, Senator Birdsell, who will be taking out 117?
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Senator, I'll do it. And we have Senate Bill 116, which is the 4A project in Derry.
I'll move on to pass.
I second that.
All right.
I have a question about it.
Yep.
I was just wondering, wasn't there a discussion in the committee report, and somebody was supposed to get back to us with, this is not my forte, but the area where there was something about talking about with the town about some quid pro quo, giving that the town would take over maintenance of a certain area, or am I thinking of something else?
No.
26.
That was 117.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah,
So we're
yeah,
all set on
this-
116. Okay. I'm getting my 16s and my 17s mixed up.
I don't blame you. Okay, so it ought to pass. It was seconded. Any discussion?
Oh, I'll just say, Tom may be remembering that the towns have made an enormous financial contribution to this.
Right.
Maybe that's
correct.
what you're remembering, yeah.
Well, thank you for remembering that for me, because that is, there was some concern, not concern, but there was some extra compelling reason to move forward with this. And I think that was it.
Well,
It was timely. Yeah.
it's they $5 million, each town were required to put in $5 million. And that they've been waiting almost 30 years for this.
Yeah. And I think the take home is that it gets more and more expensive the longer you delay. So
Correct.
Get her done.
All right. Any other discussion?
We're talking about 117, right?
116.
Thank you.
That may have been my fault, Ruth. Sorry.
All right. All right, so ought to pass, seconded. Are we ready to vote?
Yep.
All right, Senator Waters,
Yes,
Senator Ward,
Yes.
Senator Sherman,
Yes.
Senator Rishardi,
Yes.
Senator Birdsell votes yes. Consent?
Sure. I vote consent.
I'll second.
Motion
Okay.
consent.
All right. Ready for the vote? Senator Waters,
yes,
Senator Ward,
Yes.
Senator Sherman,
Yes.
Senator Rishardi,
Yes.
Senator Birdsell votes yes. I'll take this one out too. It's my bill. It should.
I was going to offer if you want, just to mix it up a little, as long as I don't get it confused.
Well, we got House bills coming, so you'll get your fair share. Speaking of the House bills, Kirsten, how many do we have so far? 5?
Yes, that's correct, 5.
All right, and I haven't had a chance to look at them. I think they're fairly, I'm hearing that the ones that we have so far are mostly committees, study committees. So I'm going to look at them and see if there's anything that's going to take a long time. If not, I may actually schedule them all and get them done, if everyone is on board with that.
One
You get it
question,
done, fine.
Madam Chair, is that at some point, it might be useful to keep your eyes out for something we might hold.
You mean for in the House bills? Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I'm sure we got plenty coming. I mean, this is the first round that came over from their last few sessions, and they're not going to be done until what, April 8th? And whatever is coming over,
Yikes.
I heard it's going to be, I know, I heard it's going to be close to 300. A lot of them are going to ED&A. So
I think there was some thought from leadership that, you know, the House didn't do omnibus bills, but that we might end up doing omnibuses out of some of the House bills to ease our work.
that I haven't heard, but it's good information. But we need to discuss that because
yeah.
The omnibus bills are tough. But at least we have language in the bills to understand them this time, and not just titles. Senator Sherman.
Yeah, I'm just worried. You talk about 5 or so bills that are commissions. And right now, I don't know about Senator Waters, but we're actually using Zoom accounts that some of the senators have actually paid for commissions with public notice, and they're available to the public. But it's we're really limited on staffing and Zoom capacity in the legislature. And I'm wondering, is there any word from the Senate president or any overall thoughts on how many commissions, committees, councils, all those things that we continue to build?
That's actually a really good question. I will check with him and the third floor and see if they have any thoughts on how we're going to manage it. Because you're right, we only have, I think, what, 3 Zoom accounts?
Right. We only have 2.
2?
I thought so.
No, I think we have 3 because we have 3 committees going at one time at times. And
That's correct.
But if you think logistically, you know, a public meeting is probably not a reality until at least the summer, depending on the vaccination rates. And a lot of these commissions and committees, especially the committees, their work has to be done, you know, November. So I just worry that perhaps it's a little unrealistic to do all of these right now. But I haven't even seen them. So I'm worried about the logistics, not the substance.
well, based on what you said, anyway, I'm worried about the staffing issue. For right now, I'm worried about the staffing issue because I know there's going to be some, because we only have five bills, and virtually we're done with Senate bills at this point because we only had 3. And I know that Kirsten is on other committees that I think they're going to be trying to get our space. So I want to make it easier on her as well. So she's not double booking, or they're not double booking her. So why don't we take a look at the bills, and I'll try and reach out to all of you before Thursday to see whether we think we can get them all done on one day or we'll have to spread them out. Okay.
Sounds good to me. You're busy, so don't worry about reaching out to me. If you and the vice chair think we can get it done, I trust your judgment. So
Okay. All right. with that, do I hear a motion to go out of exec?
So moved.
Second.
I'll take a vote. Senator Waters,
Yes.
Senator Ward,
Yes.
Senator Sherman,
Yes.
Senator Shardy,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. So I will let you all know, Senator Waters and I will converse before the calendar comes out, and we'll take a look at the 5 bills that came over from the House and see if they can get done in a pretty expeditious way. If not, we'll figure it out. All right?
I move to adjourn.
Second. Beat you to it.
All right. I'll take a vote on that. Senator Waters,
Yes.
Senator Ward,
Yes.
Senator Sherman,
Yes.
Senator Shardy,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. All right. I guess we'll see you on the floor on Thursday, if not before.